Hi, I'm Matt from HockeyReviews.ca, and this is the CCM Custom ASV Pro skate review. This is multi-year now, so I reviewed these a while. This is more of an update review. I did a full review on these. I basically said that they're the best custom skates I've had in terms of durability, in terms of just how overall they played and everything, and I had not a ton of problems with them. One of the problems I had, though, was the original tongues, which these were causing me lace bite issues, so I swapped them to thinner tongues, and since it's now been over like 2.5 years of these skates, I want to cover this again because I've been having some issues with them, which I'll talk about. So first of all, to give some overview of these skates, and I did a full review up there if you want to see them. CCM years ago sent me to their very first hockey house. I think it was the first one, which is in Toronto. I got scanned for a pair of skates, which was these, and I got them sent to me, and I've worn them since then. I did a full review on them. I was pretty impressed with them, and now I want to talk about how these are holding up now. With skates being so expensive as they are now, I think customs are like $1,500 now for these, or which the new ones would be for these. I kind of want to see if these would be worth it and if they're worth your money being spent on it. I have seen a ton of issues recently with CCM skates, specifically with the bottoms splitting on them on the new retro ones. I think specifically, I'm not sure if the new tacks still have that issue, but the retro ones definitely have had issues on it. You can see it on Reddit and posts like that. That is a bit concerning to me, especially when I kind of give this a really solid review, but it's now been a while and I want to talk about how these have been performing. Even though CCM did send these to me, I want to be honest with my feedback on everything because that's kind of what I do here, and I want to talk about these and to see if I still recommend them after 2.5 years. So before I jump into the video of this and talk about all the details on this, let me know your experience with custom skates. Custom skates are always really hard because certain people have different foot needs. Like me, I might not have a crazy out of shape foot, so it kind of works with these. Other people might have elephant feet or very weirdly shaped feet where certain custom skates just don't work for them. I've heard a lot of bad experiences recently with CCM customs in terms of not fitting correctly, but I've also heard bad experience with true customs now not fitting correctly. So please let me know and let other people know in the comments how your custom skates are, how they're holding up, and if you wish anything were different. It'd be greatly appreciated to get that information because obviously my foot is only one thing and I only have experience with these, but getting other people's thoughts and experiences is a huge benefit to the community. So first things first, and I mentioned it a little bit already, but one of the first things I had to do on this skate to make it kind of work for my foot was to remove these tongues. This was just like the standard tongue option. It's just a white felt, as you can see, and it has some like inserts in here. I guess it's the metatarsal guard on here. I had issues with this. It was too much depth basically right here, and it was causing lace bite issues. So I took these out because they did have their replaceable tongues like this. Bought these thinner tongues, and it really helped for my lace bite and overall depth on these. Like, these were custom, but sometimes the tongues, you kind of have to figure out which one works for you. I know I have a lot of depth here, and I decided to go with a thinner tongue, which I've done in the past with true skates, and this worked a lot better for me. Now, another thing I had to do on these skates originally, I couldn't really get the original insoles to work with them. Originally, I wore speed plates, which worked very well. They're super thin. They're old Bauer ones. It was the Gen 1. They cracked, and I could no longer wear them. Bauer doesn't make speed plates anymore, and their new ones are thick, and I wasn't looking for a thickness thing. So I ended up getting sent Super Feet. I actually had these ones for a while. These were from my old true skates, and this is the comfort one, so I want to kind of compare the two to see if there's a big difference on. We'll do a comparison of both of these and a review and stuff of Super Feet in a totally different video. When I first wore Super Feet on these, I wasn't that comfortable. I had issues with that depth thing, but since my speed plates cracked, I could no longer wear them. I tried to buy replacements, couldn't find my size anywhere, so I ended up going with the Super Feet, and now they're totally fine. I'm pretty sure it's because of the tongue combo on here that made them totally fine, but they are a lot better, and the Super Feet is now fine for the insole. Looking on the exterior of this skate, these look like brand new. I wear shot blockers on my skates all the time. I chipped a bone on the top of my foot years and years ago before I wore shot blockers. I basically couldn't tie shoes for 8 months, and it really sucked. So once that happened, I instantly bought shot blockers, and I've been going at it since. I haven't had any issues with my feet. So I continue that route. And with that continuation, you can see there's like no wear on the sides of these, which is kind of ridiculous. This part right here is actually where the top of the shot blocker rubs on, and that's like kind of the wear point, but everything else down here is really solid. As you can see, there is some kind of cracking wear right here on the outer layer. It's not an issue. I've seen these on my producer's tax skates that are now like 10 years old. Totally fine. It's just a little surface piece on the outside of the outer coating. And then the heel as well, there's one little nick right here, but everything else looks absolutely perfect. And these things have been worn a minimum of 2 times a week for 2.5 years. Usually it's 3, usually it's 4 times a week. So these things have been really used. You can see some cracking going on over here, just of the outer layer. Again, totally fine. Everything is holding up really good. Overall, these have held up better than my true skates have, especially on the outer shell area. So I have to give them a ton of credit for that. Everything there is very solid. This is also the wear point of the inside of the shot blocker as well. And just to compare both sides, this is the left skate, and you can see that kind of stuff going on right here, but no issue at all. You can feel the edges of it, but again, it just feels like it's that outer layer and it's going through it, and it feels totally fine overall. I wouldn't have any concerns about this. I can't like push this in or anything, and it doesn't feel like it's moving. It really just does feel like that outer gloss is kind of cracking a little bit, but the skate itself is fine. On the other side as well, there is like, you can kind of see that little mark right there, but everything is totally fine, and the skates are holding up pretty well, and I really can't complain about them in terms of that. They've been solid for that. I've had people ask me over and over again of what socks I always recommend, and I've been using Cutshield for a while now. I have multiple stuff for them. So Cutshield is a company out of Canada that makes cut resistant socks, and these are their Pro Air 6, which means it's an ANSI level 6 for cut resistance on here. Full review of it up there so you can check it out. But I now have a coupon code with Cutshield, so if you want to support the channel, you can check out the link in the description to Cutshield, buy some socks, which I think are honestly one of the better socks on the market. I absolutely love them. They're pretty thin and they are cut resistant, and they're not too hot either. Use my coupon code, you get 25% off, and it helps support the channel. Now, when we look on the inside, it's a little different, and I won't even look at this tongue yet. So they have wear guards on here, which I love, and they have the ankle pieces right here, which are nice and soft, which I also love. That wear guard, you can see, is doing a pretty good job. I keep my tongues tucked in like this. My very big Tacks knee guards go over this as well, so it doesn't really help with wear over here, but everything has been fine and solid. But you look on here, you can see the wear right there, and we flip it over and you can see the ridiculous amount of wear. I talked about this wear guard and I liked that patch, but it really does need to come in more. As you can see, this is the plastic outer shell. So when you kind of look at that like this, that's all the way gone. So all this foam is gone on here. It's totally rubbed away, and that is all because of the tongue. So really, you can see where the wear guard really took the brunt of it there. That should have been all the way, so this wouldn't happen. This is because when this tongue sits in here, you can see how it's kind of rubbing, right? And that's moving a bit. Is this a depth issue? I mean, sort of. This is an aftermarket tongue. It is a bit thinner than what these tongues were, but really this wear guard should have helped with that. How I wear my pieces over top, this is just going to wear out over and over again. Don't actually have an issue really with this point right here in terms of like feeling on my ankles. This isn't my problem. It's worn through the skate, which really sucks. It's not really the end of the world, but you would prefer that to be different. When we look at my other skate and when we look at my left foot, so this is obviously a difference between my feet are slightly different shaped and my ankles and everything are slightly different shaped, because you look at this one and it's fine, and you look at this one and you can see that wear guard here is going through, but everything on here is totally fine. So even when this one sits in, it doesn't rub as much as what the right one is. And the right one is actually giving me more issues in terms of pain currently, which is why I want to do this video. So I probably wore these tongues for, I'm gonna say about 2 years now, because I had them when I did my original review as well. You can see the tongue on the outside is totally gone. Well, it's really wearing totally through, and that's kind of that wear point right there. So it's also rubbing against laces. You can see it down there as well, but it's also on the inside right here. And this is my main problem point and the big problem with these skates and this tongue now that has been wearing out right there, that this foam is totally gone. So you can see the thickness of the foam difference between here, and then here. It's just like empty, and it's just the materials, and that is causing a ton of issues right when I kind of put my foot in here, and you can feel it's like right there. So when I have my ankle in here and I kind of lean or do anything like this where the skate is pushing in, it goes right into my ankle, and it is unbelievably uncomfortable to the point where I can't wear these twice in a day at this point because it hurts so much, which is a huge disappointment. I always play twice in a day when I play hockey, especially as a player. I play in the morning and then at night on weekends. So the fact that I'm having issues with these now, a pretty big problem. And when we look at the other side, same thing. This foam is either completely gone or it's just totally flattened out, and it has no more compression properties, so it's just totally flat. So that happens on here too. So this is uncomfortable as well, but this one is worse and causing more issues to the point where I'm like, okay, that really hurts. Other side is also worn out, and you can see it's kind of pulling away totally. These tongues are just shot. And even then the tongues, like you can see where the lace split is on the flex on them too, which is right here. I'm not really having lace bite issues, so nothing across here is bothering me. It's specifically on the insides and outsides of my ankles. Whenever you really lean, this gets pushed in, and it feels like this piece right here is just rubbing right against my bone, and it's extremely uncomfortable. So thankfully CCM has replaceable tongues. So this is gonna be my newest test basically for these, is I'm just gonna take out these laces. I'm gonna pull out the tongues, swap the new tongues in, see how they are, see how it performs. and see if I can keep using these skates. Previously said I didn't like the swappable tongues because I felt like it didn't feel as connected and it's kind of just cheapened than the normal tongue. And now after I've had tongue issues on this skate, and I talked about it when I did the review of this, I'm happy that they did have those swappable tongues, which they've now removed from their custom skates, which is kind of hilarious. It should be an option at least. Because I had these custom skates with these tongues and they didn't work, I added these tongues in and they worked fine. And now with my issues with these tongues, I have two options. I can go back to the other ones to see if they work, or I could buy a new pair of these and easily swap them myself. Yes, you can replace tongues if they don't have this little attachment piece on a normal tongue. You would just sew them in, but it's a lot more annoying and I would have to take it to someone to do that repair versus me just doing it myself, buying the part and putting it in. So the fact that this is much easier than the other option, I got to give a ton of credit for CCM for that. And then also take it off for credit because it's now gone. So it should really be a customizable option there, and it's disappointing it's gone. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to unlace these. I'm going to pull the tongue out. I'm going to do a quick test just to see if this will fix my issue. So when I actually get these on and tie them up, I tie them up pretty tight at the top, and generally everything down here is pretty loose. My depth issues are right here. Maybe you can see this when you actually wear it. Like it's right there basically, and I'm pushing my foot up a bit. You can see how that pushes up. If I tie this tight, I can really feel it, like right there is the worst for depth. And I don't really want to make these laces all that tight. So I end up doing the top three the most, really the top, 3 or 4 the most right here. And that ends up with the actual skate to be kind of like this. And with that, because of all of the foams dead in here, whenever I kind of do this, I can feel, well, one, I can feel a ton of pressure up here with just my depth issues, but I can also feel it right here rubbing over and over again. And eventually that just starts to hurt. And same with on the outside too. So any kind of lean in over here, this point right here just digs into my ankles because it is that hard lacing piece right here, and that foam padding all back here is basically gone, and it hurts. Now, when we look at my other skate, you can see where I talked about my depth issues. These are custom and they're still kind of out here. This barely fails the pencil test. It's not really an issue though. And that's where I say this test isn't the end all be all for that when I do the fit videos. But you can see how that can cause issues. And because this is a thinner tongue, it definitely helps a lot more in regards to that. And it's really why I don't do any tight parts like here and down here, because that will just cause issues down the line. And right now this is totally fine. But when we look over here, and you can kind of see how that moves and rubs, this part right here, when it's tight, this dead foam right here goes right up at the top. And so that ends up pushing directly into my bone, and it is super uncomfortable right here and right up here. Now, I have weirdly shaped feet and legs, as you can see. My foot's generally pretty big. My ankles aren't that massive, so it looks like there's some room in here. When I tighten these and tie these, it obviously becomes tighter like this, but you can still see I can still move a bit, so they're not the most tight piece at the top, which is generally fine. But when we have issues like this, where you get, well, this part can move a lot more because it isn't as snug in there, which is why we see that wear. But it is just causing issues with basically right here and right here, with the skates, with the tongues now totally broken down, and the pain going in right there. So that is a big issue. These just hurt, and after basically 2 days, well, one skate of these, and I have to give it a day off. I can wear it the next day, but if it was a few hours later, I wouldn't be able to do it. And I've tried different socks as well. I have the really thin Cutshield, which are a great sock, and I like it. It doesn't really help for this. And I have the thicker ones like the Bowers and the Warriors and the Vivero, and they also don't help with this for comfort. This is just too hard of a material. It's really solid, and it just really ends up digging really into there. When I put the other tongue in there and you put it into the sides, how it would sit, you can actually see already where this has been wearing out on these ones as well. This is kind of crushed, and the foam right here, you can see it's kind of bent, because that's basically the exact issue of that wear point of the other ones. You can see it kind of being in there, and as well on this side as well. So I'm going to put these on. We're going to lace these up, see how these feel right now. And I'm going to have to wear these a bunch to see if this is better, but I wanted to talk about this because it's getting to the point where these skates are so uncomfortable that I'm gonna have to wear a different pair of skates if this tongue doesn't fix it. For a full custom skate, for getting only like 2.5 to almost maybe 3 years out of, it's a bit disappointing. Yes, you can go with new tongues, which is what I'm trying to do here. I still feel like that is not long enough. My Trues definitely held up longer in terms of comfort, not necessarily in terms of the boot. So we'll tie this up and see how this works. So now with this tongue, this honestly just feels so much better than what this one does. Like all that kind of force right here, I can't really feel it nearly as much, like at all. The padding on the felt is so much better, but this tongue caused me issues previously. So I'm gonna have to see if this tongue actually ends up working for the future in terms of my depth and everything, and if this is good enough, or if I have to go back and try to buy a replacement pair of these, which is that thinner one. I'm gonna test it out. I'll see what it is. I might make a post about it, I might not, but I really wanted to cover these skates again because it's been so long, and just to see how they're holding up, because this is, like I said, like a $1,500 skate now, and I don't think 3 years is good enough for a $1,500 skate. Obviously the boot and everything is here is good. The tongue breaking down is a thing. Like tongues are going to break down. You can't get around that. You can always, like, it's going to happen, and you have to kind of just make sure you deal with it or you maintain it good enough. Like right here, even then, if I squeeze this, I can still feel that problem spot on my ankle, but that's also just because I did play hockey a couple days ago with these on, and it didn't make it feel that great without that tongue. So hopefully this fixes that. But $1,500 skates now, Canadian, I want them to last longer than 3 years. So we'll see how this is. Overall, very happy with the performance of this skate and how most of it has held up. The inner materials obviously are not good enough. The liner, it needs more wear guards, but that's also a skate fit. Well, not a fit, I shouldn't say that, because that seems like this is bad. It's the way my ankles are here. So if you wear a different way and you don't tie your skates the way I do, it's not going to rub as much, so that wouldn't be an issue. But that wear guard should be extended, that is for sure. I'm happy with these skates still, but I think they definitely could have been better. And really, if this fixes it and I get down the route of where I can wear these again without an issue, I'd be fine. But if this doesn't fix it, I'm going to be at the point where, like, $1,500, I want more life out of that tongue and everything without having to spend more money on them. I just don't think that is, like, long enough, especially with my experience with true tongues not having those issues. I think that they should last longer and be done slightly different. So that's about it for this. So hopefully this video was interesting and slightly helpful in terms of, like, custom skate usage and how mine are holding up and how these are kind of overall doing. And that's about it. If this video was helpful and the previous one was helpful in your purchase of custom skates, please let the company like CCM know on social. They don't really like me anymore, but let them know that these videos are helpful and help you make a purchase and you want to see more of them in the future. Otherwise, if you want to support the channel and you're buying hockey equipment anyways, if you're in the US, check out the links to Pure Hockey. If you're Canada or the US, check out the links to Just Hockey. Clicking those links, making a purchase gives me a kickback so I can keep buying hockey equipment, because I have to buy most of this stuff, including all the new CCM gear I have used. It'd be greatly appreciated so I can keep making more content and doing more reviews. Otherwise, if you want to support the channel without buying anything specifically, you can check the links in the description to buy me a coffee and Patreon. Everything through any of those links always comes back into the channel so I can keep making more content and doing more videos. Thank you very much for watching, and take it easy.
You're watching HockeyReviews.ca.